Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, addicts of all ages, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. Glad you're joining us today. And do I have a treat for you? There are many ways, many ways you can recover from whatever you're dealing with. You can go to a 12-step program. You can do an online course. You can go to in-person meetings and you can do Zoom meetings. You could do it a novel way. Go to your local bookstore and purchase a book on whatever you need to recover from. This book, oops, I almost dropped it. This book, the 12-step pathway, you can purchase on Amazon. And today I have the author of that book, Mr. Michael Gordon. Michael, how are you doing today, brother?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm so blessed that you're joining us today. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Can you please tell the listening audience sitting at home eating their popcorn like they should be and drinking their Perrier, could you tell the listening audience that your journey, tell us your experience, strength, and hope and how you got here?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I appreciate being invited to be on the show. It's a real welcome opportunity for me, and I love talking about myself. What can I say? We're advised to share our experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I like to start with what it's like now, because I'm so happy. I have such a wonderful life today. And I have a wonderful life because I have a way of living that works for me. And I base my life on a set of principles which work for me. And I acquired that in part through 12-step programs. I have been involved in 12-step recovery since 1973. And at that time, I'll get into what it was like. I was married to a mentally ill woman for 7 years altogether, and she was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and she had delusional beliefs about me, and she was pathologically jealous, and she was a very hard person to live with. And I became severely depressed. I was unable to continue with my training program in medicine. I had already graduated from medical school, but I had not completed training. I just wanted to die. I thought about killing myself every day. And what happened was that I sought solutions through religion and was partially successful. I went from a person who was pretty much of an atheist to somebody who believed in God, but the quality of my life didn't improve. And eventually, we went our separate ways, she and I. And I like to make it clear, I'm not sure why, that I did not divorce her. She left me. And but that was the best for both of us. And once I was around the time that she was on her way out of the marriage, I was introduced through my medical career to AA. I was interested in alcoholism, and there were people in my community in Wisconsin who thought, well, here's a doctor that can be an asset to our community, but he doesn't know anything about AA, so let's educate him. And so they did. They invited me to an AA meeting, and the very first AA meeting I ever attended was in Madison, Wisconsin on November the 17th, 1972. It was in the clubhouse, downtown-ish Madison, just about a block off of State Street, which was party scene. Friday night, everybody on State Street was drunk and having a good time. And I was in a room with 75 or 80 sober alcoholics. There was 3 guys that came down from Green Bay that shared their experience, strength, and hope. And I was absolutely blown away with the energy in the room, the spirit, the love, the joy. And after the meeting, I stood up and I looked at the wall hangings and I saw the 12 steps. And I read them and I said, okay, so this is how it works. This is God that can actually be implemented in a way to accomplish a certain result. And I had not found that in religion. So I got more educated about it, and I was invited to come to AA, and it wasn't long before I realized that I was at the wrong meeting, because at that time I did not drink. And I needed to be in family recovery meetings, and so I did that. Over the next 3 years, I got my career back, I got remarried, I had a child, and I started drinking alcoholically. I could not tell you why. I don't think any of us can tell you why we started. And I went from a social drinker to a daily drinker, not too much, to a compulsive drinker. And that went on over, I'm not sure how long, maybe 2 or 3 years. On my 40th birthday, some friend gave me a bottle of, I won't mention the name of it, bourbon. That was what I drank. And my wife, who was a lovely person, noticed a few days later the bottle was gone and pissed her off. She was mad. and so I was sitting there at the kitchen table, and she came up and started lecturing. It was not enjoyable. And as I was sitting there, I had several thoughts. One was, when I was 11 or 12 years old, I had walked into the kitchen at my parents' house, and my mother was standing over my father. He was sitting at the kitchen table, and she was lecturing him about how he had too much to drink the night before, and it embarrassed her, and insisted on driving home. And he didn't look happy. And I left immediately thinking that will never happen to me. And here I was. The other thought I had was, I think she's right. And I admitted to myself that I did drink too much, and that I had been worried about having become an alcoholic. I used to lie awake at night wondering if I was an alcoholic or not.
Interesting.
That's not too normal. And what kind of a person does that? So I decided, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. But I don't know if I can or not. Well, I didn't really think I was an alcoholic, but I knew that you could attend 12-step recovery meetings if you had a desire to stop drinking. You didn't have to be an alcoholic. That's the third tradition. So, well, I haven't had another drink. And that's a miracle, because I was drinking every day and I was overdoing it. I didn't have major consequences, but I was on the verge of it. And I realized that the wanting to drink in the morning was not normal. Wanting to drink at lunchtime when I was having to go back to the hospital was not normal. And telling myself I better not drink tonight when I get home, and then heading straight to the bar and getting something to drink was not normal. So I knew that I was in trouble when I got honest with myself. Um, some of the highlights, there were some of the lowlights. Some of the other lowlights in 1988, my wife developed breast cancer. She had fairly large mass and she had spread to a lymph node. And in 91, she had a recurrence and they gave her a second round of chemo and it knocked out her immune system. And she wound up in ICU in March of 92 and did not survive. She had sepsis and she died April 2nd, 1992. Our daughter was 14. I was sober 9 years at the time. And I survived that. It was a difficult period for us, but we got through it. And 3 years later, I remarried to my present wife. We've been married 29 years now, and she's another wonderful woman. I had one horrible wife and two wonderful wives. But I have to say, I was one horrible husband and two pretty darn good husbands. So that's what I have to say about it. I practiced addiction medicine, which I loved. And in 2019, I was diagnosed with cancer. Mm. I had to take a pretty intensive treatment. They told me that I'd be out of work 3 to 6 months. I decided to close my office. I was already 76 years old. Mm. And so I thought, well, all right, I need to retire. So I closed my office, but I continued practice on a part-time basis until beginning of March of last year. And in 2020, well, COVID hit, and my immune system was impaired, so I was told not to go out. I only went to the doctor's office. That's all I did. I went on Zoom, started going to AA meetings on Zoom, and that was an interesting experience. And it gave me a platform to continue my 12-step recovery. And I decided to write a book. I had time. So I read for a year. And then I wrote the 12-step pathway, A Heroic Journey of Recovery. It's the first, thank you, it's the first in-depth study of recovery from addiction as a heroic journey, according to the ideas of Joseph Campbell. And so I'm very happy with that. I like the book. I liked the idea of recovery as a heroic journey. And then this year, I've written a book about recovery, about the second step. I call it Seeking a Higher Power, a guide to the second step, because so many of us come into recovery with a bad attitude about it. God, don't know what to say, well, I believe in something, I don't know what it is. And we tell people, well, you got to find a higher power. But I thought there could be more guidance about finding a higher power. And I really think that seeking a higher power, the journey is the main deal. And from my standpoint, God is unknowable, but wants to be sought. And so it's a book about, not necessarily about God, but about a higher power, seeking a higher power. And so that's that's what I'm working on right now. I have a contract to publish it. I hope it's out by the end of the year, but if not, soon thereafter. So I love my life. I feel good. I'm in remission from cancer. I have two kinds of cancer. I'm in remission from both of them, and that's a miracle. So um, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nice. Thank you so much, Michael. That's fantastic, and congratulations on your remission. And do you mind if I read a little bit of your book? Do you mind if I read a paragraph?
No, read it out loud as long as you
Okay.
can.
So this is on the introduction of your book, and this is the part I was fascinated about. Um, uh, for everybody at home, Michael goes on to say, on my own journey, I've spent 50 years as a medical doctor, specializing in the treatment of people with addictions. The experience of helping people identify and disable their own inner demons, if not slay them altogether, has been a great gift to me. In part, it has been a journey of discovering my own limitations. I cannot slay the dragon for anyone other than myself, nor can I give anyone an exact map to, to uh, to negotiate the sharp curves and other obstacles they will encounter in life. Um, I love that, and I love how you basically said, your basically in layman's terms, your dragon might be different than my dragon, and you can't fight my battle for me. I have to fight it myself. Um, you can help me along the way and give me advice and do all of that stuff, but I often think about, this is where I think of, people like yourself and other people who have many years of recovery. If there wasn't somebody like yourself or other people in my life who have been sober a really long time, laying that groundwork, marking the wall with chalk and saying, this is how we do it. I'm not sure a lot of us would stay sober. So for the people at home, when Michael was talking about, step two and the God aspect in that 12-step recovery program, they ask you to seek a higher power. And so for people at home that have no idea what we're talking about, for somebody like myself coming into a 12-step program, I'm asked to look at something greater than myself. I have to believe in something greater than myself, or my journey might not be what I need it to be. And so during my addiction, it was all about Dougie, 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 and it was my way or the highway. Well, the 12-step program humbles you a lot, and I have to seek something greater than myself. And if I don't believe in God, then there's other routes and other things that we can do to help you along those spiritual journeys, and help you along in your path. So Michael has written a book to help us guide us to a spiritual journey. And his third book that he talked about is coming out, and it's a whole introduction on the second step and dealing with that. Michael, when you started writing, when you thought of the idea of I'm going to become an author, I'm going to start writing a book, what was the process like? And did you know like right away what you wanted it to be? Like when you wrote that book, you were telling us about the cat. Can you tell us the name of that again?
Autobiography of a Georgia Cat.
Georgia Cat. And you said that has to deal with addiction as well, correct?
Does.
So tell me a little bit about that book.
Okay, well, that book is a story. The narrator is the family cat. It's semi-autobiographical of me. In other words, it's based somewhat on my life. It deals with a Jewish fellow who's married to an African-American woman living in the Deep South. She develops cancer and she's sick. And in the meantime, he's getting in trouble with crack cocaine, a drug that I never used. So that I invented. There's a lot of family dynamics. I think it's a lovely story, and it was never at first meant to be a published book, but it turned out, if I have to say this, much better than I thought it was going to be, and people have enjoyed reading it. And I
Well,
did,
I love the idea just as it being narrated by a cat.
yeah, and it gets into feline spirituality, and there's a heroic journey element to the book. Um, So I want to comment though about something you said about people coming into the program with or without religion and with or without a belief in God. People coming into a program with religion, what I'll say is the religion hasn't worked for them in terms of recovery. So they're looking for something else, and they're not really looking for God. I mean, nobody walks into the program looking for God. They want relief from their misery.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk into a meeting, whether it's an in person meeting or a Zoom meeting, and people greet them. We're glad to see you. They're not used to that. And they hear people talking, and they're joyful people, they're honest people, and they claim to be alcoholics or whatever they claim to be in that meeting. And but they don't drink, they don't use drugs, and then after the meeting say, "Come back, please come back," and they give them their phone number, and they take them out for lunch or coffee or something. And so what happens is connection. And at first, that's the higher power, the group, the love, the connection. It hooks them in. Doesn't hook everybody in. Some people just leave and don't come back, or don't come back for a few weeks or months or years. But that's the beginning of the higher power experience. And uh, some people will run into say, you got to believe in God. Well, you don't. Some people do, and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
The higher power is whatever you experience it to be, and that can be a journey, and that can change as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have a confession to make, and maybe Deanne, our producer, can figure this out. Deanne, I kind of felt like Mr. Rogers when I was reading that paragraph, so I'm wondering if we could get a pair of socks for me and like a change of clothes. Maybe we could do an opening scene where I walk into the door and read something out of maybe one of Michael's books, and we
And
could do a
sing.
little, yeah, we'll do a little song and whatnot. Um, I think this is fantastic. I think your journey um, has brought you this far, and I'm interested to know, um, did you ever have aspirations of writing books about recovery before COVID?
Well, yeah, I thought about it, but after I wrote my first book, which was about recovery, um, I really was busy with my professional life and my personal life, and writing involves time and energy, and you can't just do it without having adequate time and commitment to the process. And so I decided that I was not going to write again until I retired, or until at least I cut way back. Yeah.
Right. Very nice. Um, so another question I have for you is, in your field that you work in your medical field and all the things that you've done, has it been hard to work with people that might have no idea about like what recovery is or what an addict actually is? Or has it kind of been like a smooth transition, like as you were like kind of like the main guy leading that charge?
So I found it easy to meet people wherever they were.
Mm,
And so people, if they're in full blown denial, uh, I was hoping that they'd give me something that I could work with,
Right.
say something, and then you use what the patient gives you.
Right.
And if I just start lecturing, I've lost them.
Right.
You know.
Okay, we don't have much time left. Tell me really quick, again, you have a new book coming out, hopefully by the end of this year. People can purchase it on Amazon. And what's it called again?
It's called Seeking a Higher Power, a Guide to the Second Step.
A
And let
Guide
me
to the
emphasize, hold up the book, because if you look for me on Amazon, you'll want to use my middle name, Michael Cowell, C-O-W-L Gordon. If you just type in Michael Gordon, it might not come up. So C-O-W-L is a Lithuanian name that means blacksmith. So my middle name is Smith.
Wow. Nice. Okay, really quick. Zoom or in person?
What do you mean?
Zoom meetings or in-person meetings? Which one do you prefer?
They're both great. I would prefer inpatient meetings, but I don't go because of my health. So my immune system is still impaired, and Zoom is readily available. And I go every day to some kind of a 12-step group. And
Right.
I love it. It's just an important part of my life. And some days I go more than once.
Well, Zoom has been a lifesaver for myself, and I know it's been a lifesaver for a ton of other people as well, especially with health conditions and whatnot. And I always say it's the cheapest plane ticket in the world.
I go to a meeting that originates in the Philippines.
Wow, that's crazy! Isn't that crazy to think about, Michael? That's nuts.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
From all
Well,
over the world.
Nice. There you have it, everybody. Dr. Michael Cowell Gordon. You can find him on Amazon, and you can purchase this book along with his other book, his previous book about the cat narrating the story. And you can purchase his third book coming out hopefully before the end of the year. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here with us today.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
Awesome. Peace and love, everybody. This is Canadian Sober A, Dougie Fresh, and Michael signing off. Peace and love.